This is going to be mostly this is going to be mostly an interactive conversation, but I do have a little bit of a preamble to go through. Just because CALI conferences, our baby, my baby, you know, I've nursed it along through the terrible teens and into adulthood, and at 25, it's still living in the basement, and maybe it's time for it to grow up and be something else. You know, we've done a zillion different conferences on different concepts. Last year, Harvard for I thought it was people from the room.
It should, but just recording.
Nope, good idea. You know, today, but I want to start this with a question. You know, when the announcement goes out that we're having a conference, and you're starting to think about, you know, going, what is it that you look forward to at this conference? And to start on a high note, what's the positives that make you think, that would be fun to do? So that question is out there. What do you look forward to when attending CALIcon?
Seeing what your getup is again.
I was hoping that wouldn't be the first So next year, everybody has to wear a costume.
There you go. That's
cosplay.
Comic-Con, right?
That's right. Then it would just be Comic-Con, right? So what else do you look forward to? What do you look forward to?
Meeting people who know what I do. Like when I go to, I'm from West Virginia, and when I go to the West Virginia Library Association conference, nobody there knows what Twen is.
So finding birds of a feather, finding your tribe, finding your people who do what you do, and you can talk your language.
I was going to say basically the inverse of that. I mean, what I really like about this conference, and I don't go to a lot of legal conferences, legal specific conferences, is that it's a lot of different diverse backgrounds. Like I enjoy interacting with a lot of different legal technologists, but I also really enjoy interacting with librarians and faculty members, and I wouldn't normally get an opportunity to interact with at some of the other conferences like that.
Right, because there's only one person in the world who does what you do, Matt. So coming here to meet others who work on audio of the Supreme Court, there aren't that many, right? So you need to meet some new people.
Learning some things that I might not have known before that will be extremely helpful to me, and hanging out with people who put up with me.
I won't make the joke. What else? Oh, come on, Ken. We love you. An uncle of the conference, if any. You've been
23 out of
How many people is this the first conference? So I wish more of you were here, because I'm really interested in your opinion. How many is this, like 5 or more? 10 or more, 15 or more, 25. All right.
Good
What else?
old John.
What do you look forward to?
I like hearing about the pilot projects, like William Mitchell's hybrid JD course. I had no idea that was going on. But hearing about it was amazing, and gives me a lot of thoughts about things that we can do.
All right, good. So there's a lot of lore. You know, I wanted to like sort of capture what has been. I wanted to be a little bit of a sociologist, and after the keynote this morning, I really want to go get a PhD in anthropology or something. That was awesome. There's a lot of lore. Now, there's like 10 slides of this, so I'm going to go through this really fast because as I started grabbing these, I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot. You know, one of the things about the conference was we try to visit a brand new building. A brand new law school every year. And when we started doing that, I thought we would run out fast. And it's not going to be a problem for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years at least. I'll bet after that it will slow down, right? I always say that. Because those schools, they want to show off their technology. And we're the guys that show off their technology because we hold the conference in a law school, not in a hotel or a conference space. Their tech gets exercised. Anybody here from Denver? So did we exercise your tech? 5 simultaneous streams, 50 streams?
The network didn't go down, so you know that's all you can do.
You know, and we try to visit cities that ALS and ALL doesn't visit, because I'm sick of Washington and San Francisco and New York in the winter. So sometimes the downside of that is sometimes we have to get a little funky with hotels and transportation, but as much as possible, I think it's been worth it.
I just want to point out that there is no other law-related conference I know of at which you can get applause for not having your network.
Good point. Good point. We try to bring, the original plan was there's 3 big communities in law schools, and I know there's more, but there's the faculty, the tech, and the librarians, and there wasn't a conference in which they would all show up and run into each other and not go, morning. And maybe, even though they might select themselves into specific sessions, they got to run into each other at the breaks and things like that. We wanted to create community. The original name of this conference for the first 3 or 4 years was Conference for Law School Computing Professionals. Tom and I were inventing the idea that law school computing people were professionals. We failed, so we dropped the word. We dropped the word professionals and just called it law school computing. Specifically, not saying educational computing or library computing or admin or anything like that, so that we could have all of those groups show up.
And even before that, you use the quaint term legal education automation professionals, hence CALI Leap.
Oh, that's right, CALI Leap, I remember that. That's right, Jolene Willis?
Yep.
All right. And of course, fertilize ideas across Hill communities. We don't really plan the sessions. This is going to be a big point in the proposal I'm going to make. In other words, we don't tell you, we're looking for specifically people to talk on these topics. We might do a little behind the scenes, hey, you're doing this cool thing at William Mitchell, you should come talk about it. Or I was just talking with Steve Chapman at Harvard and their digitization project, and I'm like, dude, did you give a session on that? And they're like, next year. So there's lots of, so there's an opportunity for people to propose sessions. We do this little voting thing, which we pay, sort of a peripheral vision attention to, but we then try to assemble that into a coherent series of tracks, which is really hard because when you just open it up, we get sort of a potpourri of sessions or an odds and ends of things. But it becomes sort of a Rorschach of what the community is collectively thinking, what they're willing to talk about. Tom?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to do an old guy thing here, for which I apologize, and point out that in the early years of the conference, that was not strictly true, and the principal reasons that it wasn't strictly true were that 2 very disruptive things were taking place. One was, recall that this is in the period basically 90 to 95 that I'm talking about. So you have the internet showing up. I mean, there was a time when if a bomb had gone off at this conference, 3/4 of the internet expertise in the legal profession and industry at large would have gone away. Also, people were building buildings and wiring them for networks at a furious rate. And in those days, I think we had a little more of an agenda.
Yeah.
I can recall saying, look, we really need to think about raising the median in the community around this issue or that issue or the other issue. And very frequently, it was building planning or the internet in those early years. And I bring that up not because I think we should be doing everything by looking in the rearview mirror, but because I think that over the next few years, law schools institutionally are going to be facing a disruptive curricular challenge very similar to what we saw in the early 90s. I mean, here's real empirical evidence for you, right? I'm writing shuttle buses at conferences, and what I was hearing at a conference in California last week were at least 3 different institutions, and maybe 4, because I couldn't place one of the speakers I was overhearing on the shuttle bus, where deans are out aggressively fundraising for centers for law and computation. And I would guess, well, I'll ask, how many of you guys have deans who are either doing something like that with a center in mind, or where you're contemplating curricular changes in the direction of law and computation stuff, e-discovery, any of the sort of intersection of technology and law practice stuff that's coming around?
So I'll speak for Chicago. Ken?
We certainly are.
Couple? Not many? 7 or 8. Okay.
Yeah, so a fair assortment of that, and I think more coming, and I think that poses a challenge similar to for this organization as to what the internet did, 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
I agree. So you may like the proposals then when they hit them. So the other thing about the conference is we want to enable interaction. The breaks are the real conference, in my opinion. The sessions are good, but the breaks are really where I think interesting stuff happens. Great food, okay, I'll tell the joke once more, and then I'll never tell it again. So early conference, I'm reading the evaluations, and we have Likert scales for, overall, sessions is 1 to 5, 1 is bad. People, this person circled 1, speakers 1, materials 1, presentations 1, food 5, overall conference 5. And at that point I said, I don't care what we do, the food's going to be awesome at every conference because that's the controlling variable apparently. We've been experimenting with social games, to greater or lesser extent of success. But it's something that's built into the lore. Our sponsors, I've always tried to for the sponsors to tell them that they're part of the community and they should come to the sessions. They almost never listen to us in that regard, but that doesn't stop me from trying. But the fact that we have so many, and they're kind of a diverse group of different things, we don't make a profit at this conference. We don't lose money either. It's always a balance to try to just, to make it pay for itself. And so we don't want the sponsors to be driving, the decision that we made for the thing. First, we'll leave the power. We had fun with costumes. Well, somebody does. And by the numbers, so we have 260 attendees this year, but we're usually around the 3 to 350 the last 5 to 10 years. 2.5 days, 56 sessions. We're in the 2nd or 3rd year of an experiment where we started to make you speakers pay $95. It used to be free for speakers, and everybody else paid $3.95. We dropped that to $2.95 as counter-programming on ALL raising their price, and on the fact that we know that budgets are tight. And the most expensive thing is not the conference fee, it's the travel and the hotel. And so that's the deal. And the $6.95 is us saying if there's anybody here from a non-CALI member school, and I'm halfway confident that there isn't, to say, why don't you join CALI and get the steep discount of the conference? I think Boulder came back this year partially because, is anybody here from Colorado Boulder? Thank you.
There's one person attending, I know.
One person attending. I think they saw that price differential and said, cheap, save $400 off of the CALI dues by just, joining and coming to this conference.
And we have amazing Colorado legal research lessons too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So my quick question there was for you speakers, did that $95 bump cause you grief? The fact that we're now charging you went from 0 to 95? Because that's sort of us trying to claw back some food money a little bit. No?
Well, no problem. And one thing that I want to point out is the $2.95 plus 95 is kind of equal to the previous like $3.95. So
yeah, it was a wash for us in terms of income.
My idea was that we charge speakers a little bit more, but somebody else from because the price was going down, somebody else from the school could still go, and the price was the same for 2 people essentially, a speaker and your boss to come and watch you.
Well, okay, confession time. And so we were getting tired of people from the school saying, yeah, I've got this session, it's got 6 speakers, so we're all going to come for free. And we knew they were just padding the agenda in order to get the free bill. And so, you know who you are. So the ecology, though, that we're heading into, that's broadly different than the past, is increasing hard tech and increasing ed tech. How many people of you are full-time programmers? And you don't work at a law school, and you work at a law school, but not in the law school's IT department. Yeah.
In fairness, we have 4 here. There's no guarantee they're all in this session.
Right. Okay, so
but they don't work for the law school. I mean, they work,
Yeah. That wasn't so true 15 years ago. There were programs, and I'm not saying we want, where are all the programmers, save the programmers. It's just that the ecology has changed.
Well, don't forget systems administrators.
System administrators, and all that's been absorbed up into things like the central campus that does those things. Certainly network administration is all of there. Admin computing. There used to be lots of admin computing sessions when we had in the world of tailored solutions and pre-LSAC doing the ACES stuff.
And, yeah, if I could comment on that, that's one of the things that when I'm talking to people on my campus or elsewise when they want to know about, why law schools are very suspicious of when the university is trying to drive something from the top down. Part of it's because 25 years ago, the solutions weren't there, so we had to create them in the law schools and hire the people who could do it. And now, the universities, for the most part, not always, not all of them, and not in all fields, but they're closer, much closer to providing most of the hard technology that law schools need.
Yeah, it's sort of caught up.
And most of the administrative applications that law schools need.
So the other thing is there's also lots of alternatives now for people who do some sort of tech in legal ed or slightly overlapping it, right? How many of you have gone to a reInvent law? How many of you have gone to more than one?
Well, yeah, but I went there to see VCs, not to see anything that had to do with tech. I mean,
hackathon, which we're going to talk about a little bit. How many of you participated in a hackathon? Below you, I see mostly librarians though. Yeah, the ALS, right? Okay. Distance learning. That's the working group on distance learning and legal education. How many of you went to any of those meetings? There were 6 or 7 of them the last few years. A couple of people. Legal ed. That's the Michelle Pistone's TEDx things. I wasn't at any of those, but you 2 words, right? There's more tech. I'm not sure that's true. More tech showing up at ALS and ALL. It's certainly not showing up as tech. It's showing up as innovative teaching techniques or experiential learning using some tech on the side, like a video tool or a social media tool or a virtual practice tool. Steve?
Yeah, I was just going to say the tech that's showing up at AALS, at least the things I've seen, are things that were at CALI like 15 years before they were at ALS.
Personal response devices.
Clickers, that's right. So, it's a different world. So here's my second question. What makes our conference or a conference a must attend? What about this makes this oh man, I gotta go to that because what?
Smart, friendly people.
Well, how many of you are smart and friendly?
Tom's got the smart part there.
Well, let me think. I'm friendly, Elmer's smart, so together we make a smart friendly.
Did you have a category for actively hostile, John?
You have your hand up, right?
I was waving to the camera girl on camera. Oh. Somebody's Mac. So let's wave.
Hi everybody. Hi guys. And about 3 minutes later, they'll see the delay. So what makes the conference a must attend?
Well, one of the points that Ken makes is that this is the newer stuff. This is the stuff that isn't going to get into the mainstream of law schools for a couple of years.
That sounds like a bad thing, because it's not the mainstream.
Right, but somebody needs to push.
Ah, so we're the pusher. Oh, that's it. We're the innovators? Or at least, hopefully, yes. Okay, wait. Any other question? Or you have a comment?
For me, it's a must attend, so I can see and hear what the other law schools are doing. Usually, every year, there's usually at least one topic either the dean or somebody else wants me to learn about and find out what everybody else is doing.
Exactly. I'll get to you in a second. So the sub-question is, how do we find out what, or I always want to be able to tap into what are deans thinking as a way to know what to program for this. Is there a way to do that easily? Maybe just ask them, right?
Ask them or ask us.
Or ask you. All right. Sorry, you first and then back to you.
It's a must attend for me because it's law school and job specific. So it's not, I mean, AALS and those kinds of conferences are not pertinent to my job. But CALI has always been, you know, informative and gives us, you know, the kind of a peek hole into what other schools are doing and.
Competitive intelligence.
Yeah.
So back to you, and then Jeff.
Well, you can't really ask the dean, because they're off doing 19 million other things.
Yeah.
But it's just, in my case at least, every year, it just so happens something comes up during the year, and then it just so happens it's happening at CALI. Okay, that is an excuse.
So just to push back. Well, so for example.
This year it was incubators.
Ah.
In previous years it was, I was ordered to go learn about, what's this exam soft thing? We have to get it, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's usually something.
Uh-huh. I was just talking to the exam soft person, and they did a whole session on formative assessment, which is a hot thing, and apparently not very many people attended. I'm assuming it's because they saw it as a vendor session and avoided it.
No, it may also be that the ADA standards aren't up yet.
Ah.
Well, but it could also be because there were some school sessions that addressed it just as well, and at least 2 of those sessions specifically exemplified the product itself.
No, okay.
Without the vendor being there.
They had sufficient coverage, is what I'm saying. Jen?
One of the biggest reasons I come to CALI isn't necessarily the sessions, it's people, because this is where I make contacts, and throughout the year, I rely on those contacts to reach out and talk to people about issues that arise. For instance, I want to plan a law technology class, and now I'll probably be in contact with Doug Edmonds at some point to talk to him about what worked and what didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really wouldn't have done that unless I'd come here and talk to him face to face. And so it's really, to me, more about the people and getting that face-to-face contact.
Like to teach the word to say. Bob?
Yeah, I think it's creativity and innovation in a supportive atmosphere. When you start talking about getting the deans involved, I think, you know, they're going to be the obstacle suppliers, not what's great here is there's nobody in this room who isn't mindful of cost constraints already. But this is a place where we can come and, you know, freely brainstorm and support each other and explore.
Somebody else? Somebody else had a hand over there? Okay, we'll go with Bob. Sorry, Michael.
Well, I was just going to say that what I love about this conference more than the others is kind of the improvisational nature of it. I mean,
we planned it that way.
But much like Second City, where nothing is really actually improvised, it's all very well choreographed. This has a much looser, much more comfortable, much more you know, camaraderie kind of feel to it than I would say AA, where I think there's a lot of, and are we being taped? It doesn't matter. A lot of kabuki theater goes on that, you know, is more for the association and not for really what's trying to get accomplished at the conference.
I love AAL's SISs, I mean, in concept because of the structure it puts on them. But then you're right. Sometimes the actual product doesn't match up to what the expectations are.
I want to address a few things actually. Ken's notion of absorption into the central campus board and your assertion, John, that we should be following the mainstream. I think that you either believe that there is something about doing computing in a law school that is different from doing computing other places.
Yes.
Or you don't. And if you don't, there's no reason not to shut this thing down and have everybody go to EDUCOM. Right.
How many of you go to EDUCOM?
Now, I have always believed that there's something very different about doing computing in law schools and something potentially different in supporting some of the applications that we're starting to see come down the pike now. Again, I think we're in the middle of a kind of second revolution now, in some ways. And I think that if we're not able to make the case that we are different from those other people, then there's something we're seriously failing at doing, frankly. You know, if people are being absorbed into central campus operations because they're not doing anything but changing toner cartridges, maybe they should be doing something other than changing more toner cartridges if we don't need sessions on toner cartridges. You know?
Sure. All right.
I fully agree with that. No, my point was, was that we're able to shift what we're doing that we specifically need that's still different, because so much of the train running we initially had to do that now the university can keep the bigger trains running, and we can concentrate on specialized railroads that no one else really needs. I want to add, since I have the floor for 10 seconds, when necessary, it's also a great place to come and commiserate.
Amen.
Anybody else, what makes this a must attend?
Just so everyone knows, about a month ago, I told people in an earlier session, I was tasked with deploying Slack. And my initial question was, what? So then I asked, is there anyone I could talk to? And the director of one of our programs said, no. But somebody said at a conference it was great, I want it. I said, but you don't even know what it is. I'm like, okay. So now that
Taylor Swift is on it.
Yeah, so now that I'm here, I attend the session, I know more about it, I'm going to deploy it when I get back. You know, so I have a better feel for it because of coming here to CALI, whereas I had no one else to talk to. No one.
Cool.
And I'll let, once I deploy it, I'll let them decide whether they want to keep going with it or not. You know, I don't really think it fits the environment I'm working in, but I can't tell the directors that. I think they have to see it. And it was really good for me to be here and listen to the session about Slack.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, in order to see more conversation, I put up some radical ideas that I will go through, and from this feedback, I already know that some of them are non-starters, but they're stuck in the slide right now. You know, what if this was free? What if we just gave away the conference? Would that improve it? Would that increase attendance? I mean, I'm worried that attendance is down because it costs money.
But it's
you can't make the
transportation
travel.
cost.
It's the
You
transportation.
can make the travel free, and you get what you pay for, and I think you'd be running into that with some people saying if it's free,
It must be crap.
well, not necessarily crap, but, you know, is it really gonna offer me something that's worth the airplane ticket?
All right, all right. What if the sessions were shorter? I got to admit, I enjoy listening to people expound for an hour on their topics, but almost every session, I think, they could have done this in a half hour. And maybe that's because I've attended 25 conferences and I have a shorter attention span.
It's tougher programming, but you could have a mix of lengths. Some things deserve
Yeah,
longer,
that's what I was just going
longer
to
than other
say.
things.
Double sessions
You
as
know,
necessary.
10
Yeah.
quick tips you could do in 15, 30 minutes, but an exposition on what this is and how we all are actually using it, worth more time.
So when I was at Reinvent Law, every session was 6 seconds long, no, 6 minutes long, or 15 minutes long. And at the end of the day, with almost no breaks or 5-minute breaks, I was just exhausted.
And overwhelmed.
And that decreased the benefit tremendously to me.
Well, honestly, that's Chinese food, John. I mean, an hour later, what did you see?
Yeah, exactly. So Jennifer, then back to Elmer. Then.
My session actually ran out of time, so we still had questions that we didn't get to.
Oh yeah, they filled every second of that session with useful information.
That was the formative assessment one?
It was one of them, yeah. We could have used 75 minutes just for extra questions.
Yes. Yeah.
As did the William Mitchell folks. They filled every second with useful stuff.
Yeah.
And there, I mean, I remember the very first time I presented at CALI, I got a phone call from John after putting my session saying, this looks really interesting, I'm going to put you on a panel with this other librarian, right? And I was a librarian at the time, we were both talking about roughly the same thing, and so I effectively had a half a session to do that, and we used to do that. I actually stopped doing it.
Right, I used to shove people into sessions.
John used to combine proposals and create a panel, usually 2 people. You'd essentially do 30-minute sessions, right?
Yep.
I mean, you did it with as a single thing. I found that with the point at which I took over sort of building the agenda, which everybody feel free to blame me directly. for the lack of, for the tracks that make you get up and move from one room to another, that's my innovation. By the way, mostly to keep Mr. Bruce from sitting in one room all day. So that, because his wife told me he needs more exercise. So the,
don't we all?
So I stopped doing it. At the point at which I took over the agenda, we were actually down on
proposals.
And so we were taking pretty much anybody for a few years who showed up.
Like a fourth-year law school.
to fill things out. And then last year we had a banner year where we had like 90-some sessions, and then proposals. And then this year we had more, and then we're trying to jiggle things around.
This is kind of music, isn't it? Yeah, it's a little bit.
Sorry, what I was getting at was the 30-minute session thing is I think not a bad idea. If you can figure out how to determine whether or not something's going to be covered.
Something deserved, right. Oh, sorry, no, I said
I was just going to say I like the idea of having multiple tracks that not necessarily are in sync with each other. Because I remember doing the Drupal camp at CALI. I can't even remember which year that was, and I really loved that. It was a half-day session. I thought that was a great idea. If we could do more of those types of events where you may have some that are 20 minutes, but you may have others that are half a day.
All right, interesting. Bob?
I think if you have 30-minute sessions, you're going to discourage active learning and participation. So, and I would like to see that encouraged. So a mix of 30 and 60 minutes is pretty much about the minimum for anything that you can get audience involved in.
Good point. It does cut it back. Do you see more hands up? Tim?
I'd probably maybe do like 45 minutes, but allow an extra 15 minutes if people want to stick around and ask questions, so that we get more time out in the lobby. But have the expectation be that we should try to finish at 45. And then people can leave after that point. If they want to stick around, they can stick around.
And maybe explicitly tell people your session is 45 minutes with a 15-minute something built into it.
And I feel like the hour long is, I mean, a lot of the topics, if you did it in 30 minutes, you wouldn't get a clear understanding of how it was done or what was done. Where when you have an hour, you get a pretty complete picture of what they're trying to present.
Yeah. See, now there was a proposal for this. I think it was Major League Baseball, where you could subscribe and it just showed you all the hits and all the runs.
Right.
I would so buy that. and so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask this. Nick, did you have anything? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that if you did look into doing a mix, I would not have it be where there's an hour-long session and a 30-minute session at the same time. Because you're going to end up with those people who want to leave halfway through an hour-long session to go to a 30-minute session that they actually care about.
Yeah. Everything being the same amount of time, it makes for a nice sort of, condense the whole thing. But I hear what you're saying about, the value of having.
And you could have an hour track and then a 30-minute track.
That's what I would.
Yeah. Okay. So horizontally they should.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
not vertically.
Right.
All right. So here's other radical ideas. What if we had 3 of these conferences a year, 1 day a year? And what if maybe instead of having conferences where we meet, since transportation is the cost, we did virtual conferences. You all stay home and spend a day walking at your.
I mean, a sprinkling of those on particular topics.
Yeah.
The way you did the law office management.
Yeah, the topics in digital law practice, so every Friday for 7 weeks.
Right.
But that's not a conference. That's a
But I
different
would
thing.
aim for a half, if you can do a virtual one, I would aim for a half day rather than a full day.
Yeah.
Maybe in addition to the actual 3-day conference.
Yeah, it's a different thing. It's a separate product, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there actually is an online conference in ed tech that's run out of Hawaii. And I tried to attend one year, and it's a 3-day thing or something like that. Like, it goes on. But this is different, right? We're here, we're interacting and stuff, and when you're sitting in your office watching a little video box, it's a different experience. It's just not the same. I mean, 1 hour, an hour thing is one thing.
You might try a regional.
Yeah.
1 day regional.
regionals. I mean, Northeast is 50 schools, and Southwest is you and 2 others.
Got a hand up
all right,
over
now
here.
we're at finally 95, and that's my last one. So
Got a hand up over here, John.
Sorry.
I'm certainly in the minority on it.
You want to get Des on mine?
But as a kind of frontlines IT guy that's, simultaneously a manager and still changing toner cartridges and whatnot, I pretty much won't do any sort of online video just because I have to make myself go pay attention to it. That's why I come here. If I'm not getting out of my office, I'm gone, my attention's gone. And so I won't even sign up for webcasts like that a lot of the time, just because I never get to it. I never have time. So.
Yeah, it's really good to get away from the day-to-day work, which when you're trying to learn something new becomes a distraction.
Exactly, and to force the issue and just say, I'm going to go learn this now. Yeah. Yep.
So so that's what I've got to say. And if there's we're going to have Daza join us from MIT, who wants to talk about the idea of hackathons becoming part of the CALI conference. And while they're working with that, if there's anybody who has any other comments about future conference ideas, love to hear them right now. First Terry, and then Jennifer.
I participated in an IT leadership conference that they do a full, it's just a one-day conference. And it's, 1 year they do it live, and the following year they do it virtual. And what they do is they bring, like, at our school, we get all of the IT leaders from our school into one place for the virtual. And so when they do the live, they get maybe 300 people. But when they do it virtual, they get maybe 600 or 700 because more people can attend at their school rather than where they're having the
Do we have any numbers on people watching the live stream?
I haven't asked.
Maybe we'll just give it a second.
All right. Just curious. I have a feeling it's never that.
It also does have, we can even tell you things like when people drop off and watching the streams and stuff.
And what they're wearing,
exactly.
Whether their
Social
ethnicity,
numbers.
I want their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, and whether or not they're about to be pregnant or depressed. I got something to sell. Jennifer?
I was just going to say, I'm all for hackathons, and I know it's probably not the big star, but anyone's in Philly at LIbrarians, we are doing a hackathon. Still time to sign up. If you are on the hacker side and not a LIbrarians member, it's free. If you are a LIbrarians member, it's $25. On Saturday, you are all welcome to come join us on the Civic Hackathon.
Excellent. So that's a perfect segue to Daza. Whoa, that was
okay. Great. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I'm actually on my phone right now. I'm going to switch over to the laptop when the conversation gets started. We'll be joined in a moment by Jonathan Patkin, who's a law professor at Brooklyn Law School, and has been a real terrific collaborator with MIT, along with actually in your room, Michael Robach and his team at UMKC Law School. And I think the topic we want to bring up for this planning session is to dive into the question of what about legal hackathons as a possible activity that CALI could get involved with. And a slant on that we in my program at MIT is online hackathons. So those are two separate, I think. One is just for people that raise their hands, John, when you asked who knows about hackathons, but I imagine some dialogue about what is a hackathon, what's a legal hackathon, and potential fit with CALI would be appropriate. But I also would like to make sure that we have at least a couple minutes reserved for the potential of using system that we put together here in Media Lab for online hackathons. Basically, it could be kind of think about virtual conferences and the role of those. It could be maybe a way to maintain community across the law schools and the different constituencies that you have here between conferences in a way that allows for teams and collaboration and problem solving, a lot of knowledge transfer. First things first, I suppose. John and I think Lloyd and Harold are in the room too, and Sally's been very helpful. Maybe you could, I can't read the room very well from my vantage point here, but maybe you could help to facilitate the dialogue. and we could have a conversation about it. I'll just say if people are interested in it, between Jonathan and I don't want to speak for Michael Roback, but he may have something to say, but I believe that we have a small team of people already in technology and law schools who would be willing to help kind of convene or host, an initial CALI online legal hackathon if you want to go that way. So you don't have to worry too much about budget or how could we even do this. There's some folks that have been doing it right along who would be willing to jump in, but maybe some dialogue about what is it and is there a potential fit here would be appropriate, or really any way that you think was appropriate to take it, John.
Not sure where to start. So I'm going to take it as a question, Daz. Is there a good fit with a hackathon and the culture that I just described and the lore of the CALI conference? And I think the short answer is maybe. Right? This is not a room full of programmers, and I kind of established that there aren't a lot of, I don't want to say hacker types, because I think we are, depending on, for various definitions of what a hacker is, such as those things. But having a track devoted to it that's actually optional, so that it's not a requirement for everybody to participate. I'm doing that for the purposes of the people that don't find that interesting or too intimidating. Although, Penny, you want to say something?
But many of the legal hackathons the idea, I think this conference could be ideal for it in that you can bring together the programmers and the people who are ready to express a need for what you could do for me in the time of this hackathon that I could take back with me and use.
The very definition of a hackathon.
Yeah. And you've got the customers here, and you can surely bring some. We certainly have several people already who can program, and if you have other programmers who don't normally come, and you say we've got people that you're going to be able to work with, that to me is the ideal collaborative space.
Okay. Okay. Other comments? Nick?
I was just going to say, you make the comment that there's not a lot of full-time programmers here, and whether you're full-time or not, I would think that doing something like hackathon would actually attract more programmer-type people to come here.
If they're out there, then they'll find us, right? Gotcha. Matt?
Well, I think that, sort of building on this, the problem you will potentially have is if you don't have enough coders and you're having a hackathon, you're not having a hackathon. If you say you're going to have a hackathon and you've got me and Nick as the only programmers in the room,
going down.
and that's a hack off. That's not a hackathon. So I think what you might have to do to make this work, and I think it is actually do think it's a fantastic idea, is to sort of look on the periphery of your current community for groups that have more coders involved. And I'm thinking like the open government community, where you could get people from the Sunlight Foundation, or people at the Media Lab, MIT Media Lab, involved in a conference like this, who have a lot more of that coder programming talent.
And let me add 18F to that mix too.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So I'll be the keeper of culture and say, will that culture clash or mesh sufficiently with this culture?
A little bit of both, and I think that's ideal.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a question though. I mean, I'm hearing hackathon as if it's this thing kind of rotating in space, not tied to anything else. What will it produce?
I'm going to toss that one to Daz.
Do you hear that
question?
Daza?
He's speaking and we're not hearing him.
You're muted. Oh, there you are. Do you hear that question? What will the hackathon produce?
What's the deliverable?
What's the payoff?
I'll bet you're having trouble tracking this, Daz.
Boom. All right. I'm sorry about that. Juggling computers. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I think the last two questions are very tightly connected. And one of the questions, basically, I think they go to the point of, how could a hackathon be sculpted to reflect and support, the culture and the aims of CALI? So one of the things that I'm hoping Lloyd can send the URL to Jonathan soon so we can get on. Jonathan Askin can speak to this a little better than I, but the major thing that I'm excited about with these legal hackathons is that there seems to be a formula where it's possible to compose a hackathon where some of the projects could be not technical at all in a direct sense. So for example, one of my favorite examples was a privacy-oriented hackathon that we did with Open Knowledge Foundation a few months ago, where many of the teams worked on terms and conditions for privacy. And some teams worked on model statutory language. We had some other projects that were related to marketing practices, but they were basically all narrative documents. And the demos they did were little YouTube videos of them describing the project, and that was, everybody agreed that was a legit team project, and it was really essential as part of a fit, certainly of a technical topic, but it was not itself technical. And I think the main thing with a hackathon, as opposed to a conference or a seminar or what I call like a talkathon, is that you have teams that are collaborating on a project, and the production is some artifact, which is the result of the project. So I think a document is certainly a valid thing in a legal hackathon to produce. If you have technical people, it's always fun if there's working code. The law, as Larry Plessy told us, is code. We have legal code for sure. So I guess that's the first thing, is just to expand your sense of what the deliverables could be. But I do think the best hackathons have teams that are making deliverables and working together and producing new ideas and at least roughing them out. I guess the other thing I would say is, just from hearing the way that the dialogue was facilitated this morning, I was trying to listen in, I'm wondering if it wouldn't make sense to have sort of a exploratory hackathon that was with a smaller group of people that are the diehard CALI members that have friendships here, that really look forward to it, that love to participate and get a lot out of it. That was a group of 20 to 30 people. You could actually have a hackathon on the topic of this session, which would be like teams formed to explore different revenue models or different potential strategies or directions for CALI as part of their membership. I think I haven't seen a hackathon like that, but in a membership-oriented group of people that really enjoy the topic and where it's a creative, friendly group to start with. I think that could be a very good fit. If there's like 3 or 4 streams that maybe after upon reflection that seem like they're ones that you want to explore, having people come up with a project like, well, here's how it could look if we had a certification program. Like, here's a demo of how you could be certified as an instructor at ABC, or how we could do a seminar series. Or I actually didn't really know what the different ideas were, but if there's 2 or 3 that you wanted to explore, you could actually do projects on that. And then number 1, advance the dialogue. Number 2, kind of figure out how hackathons, where the best fit is in terms of how you like to do them, how you like to participate on them, and then possibly stage a larger one later in the year. If Jonathan doesn't get on, I should say that he's got a really interesting thing going with American Law Institute or Law Librarians. Lloyd has more of the details on it, but they've got a big annual conference coming up, and they've asked us to help produce a hackathon for it. So the thinking that I think he wanted to propose was maybe to do 1 or 2 small, low-key, like no-risk things internally with your group, and then if you like it, and if it seems like you wanted to go for it, I think Jonathan was going to propose getting on the calendar, I don't know, I think it's like 9 months from now or so, maybe doing something jointly with the Law Library group, and being able to then also kind of ride on the resources a little bit and maybe help find where the problem space is for teams that the types of themes that they want, where there's overlap with what your membership wants, could be a very powerful connection. So that's just at a high level, a little bit more context. We have pretty neutral software at MIT that we use for hackathons, and if you think you want to try it and you brainstorm a little more about what you want to do or what projects you enjoy doing, or that your students or other faculty might enjoy getting involved with, happy to brainstorm, and we've got some volunteers here at the Media Lab that are interested in this and who would be willing to monkey around a little bit to configure something for your use in GitHub and open source naturally, so you can kind of take it and fork it if you like it, or the fact that it's open is why we can do this, I should say. So we've got a culture of open source and open standards in the part of MIT where I am, and one of the great things about that is it means that we can do projects without a contract or without anybody paying us necessarily, or being part of like a grant code or whatever particular initiative, and it being an open source thing is important to us. And so it's not a great fit if you want to commercialize the software part or that, but it's a terrific fit if you want to have more of an open, collaborative community around hacking at the how you do the online hackathon. And then if you really liked it, you could fork it and have a CALI branch, that's really especially suited to you people, and maybe like MIT's branch will go a slightly different direction. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling now because the discussion was really good. And maybe, John, you could just indicate when it would be good for me to jump in, but I think the more discussion you have in the room, the better. And if people want to do something, I'm sure we could be flexible and work with that.
Cool, cool. Well, that's what I think it will take, is we'll follow up with you, Daz, and Jonathan after this. I thought we would collect a few more comments on this and then wrap this up so that we can get off to the final plenary. Tim?
I always look at hackathons as the primary purpose is to find people to hire. That's just from a business perspective, not necessarily what gets done. I think that the main value for CALI and the legal education group would really be the social connections made with the programs. I don't really expect much of anything of really productive code to get done, but the discussions might be good, and they might make some connections, and then they can help each other as they sort of go forward.
So hackathons is a way to think about problem spaces rather than actual work getting done. Yeah. That makes me feel better because I don't want to do any work.
Well, and they won't run, and then everybody will be paying for it. The other thing is, everybody thinks hackathon, they keep focusing on the engineers and the programmers and purple hair and all this other stuff. My take is if you moved it to, here are the problems that we face. Like right now we have discussions and sessions. But if you went out and said, what are the problems we have? We have the, like the library.
That are hackathon-sized problems.
Yeah, library catalog merger type thing, we're moving systems. So we have this, there's all different types here. It's not, it doesn't have to just be pure programming, a better way to write statutes. That might be interesting and allow more different types of participation so that everyone can sort of be involved with it, not just with the programs.
Yeah, and maybe you could do some of this pre-conference so that by the time everyone arrives, a lot of the dusty work has been sort of like cleared away a little bit. It's a little bit more sharp.
Slack channels for each one.
Oh, there we go. Michael?
So at UMKC, we hosted the National Day of Civic Hacking on June 6th to 7th. And what was great about it was we partnered with the Code for America Brigade, but most of the things weren't really hacked. They were really discussed. And actually, we had probably the best, or I would say the winner of the event, even though it wasn't really that kind of competition or hackathon, was really just a balsamic rendering of what could be done. And everybody who participated, the law students that participated, I've never seen such engagement. But I think we have enough issues in common, not problems, but things that we want to accomplish, that what you could do pre-conference is come up with a list of potential projects that could be joint efforts by different schools, and then bring together all different kinds of folks to talk about them and come up with at least a beginning point. And then that's the next hackathon.
Okay, okay. Matt, you have your hand up, and then Jennifer, and then back to Mark.
So just to build on what Tim was saying, I agree that the best part about something like this could be the social interactions. And I imagine that there's a number of people at this conference who have a loose grasp of technology and have some problems that they think technology might be able to solve, but don't have the technical expertise to understand how it could be implemented or whether it could be implemented. And it's helpful to have technologists and non-technology people who have real problems interacting to build out of that. But I also think that you could have one or two projects that maybe you have a really good proof of concept, but you do actually have working code that could be a springboard to a real project that gets implemented somewhere down the road. I've been to, I don't know if I've ever been to a hackathon where you actually had a finished product at the end of it. I've been to some.
Well, you get a demo out of it, right?
But you get a demo or you get some kind of loose proof of concept that turns into a really good idea at some point down the road.
Okay. Jennifer.
So we actually did the LIbrarians hackathon last year, which both John and Elmer were there. And we didn't have many programmers there. In fact, we had one, not counting Elmer, John. But
Elmer was a judge.
Yes, yes. But it was really about sitting down and talking about problems. We were focused on government information and really talking through about what could be done to make it more accessible. And we actually had some great ideas. We had 4 teams working on how to bring all the CFRs together and for the states and, or not the federal regulations, but all of the state codes and make them more accessible. And one group actually came up with working code to make the South Carolina Supreme Court opinions actually accessible because their search mechanism was horrible. So it was more about working together collaboratively to come up to solve problems. And we had a lot come out of one day of work. And we had the DPO watch us, and they were very intrigued and very interested. In fact, Mary Alice is going to come back and look at us again. And
Mary Alice Beige.
Yes, Mary Alice Beige. So there's a lot that can be done, and I think getting the technology community involved in hackathons is even more interesting because there's a lot out there that we can do as well. So whether it's partnering with the full library community or just this group, there's a lot that can be done.
Bob?
This isn't exactly a hackathon, maybe you're already doing this, but how about an A2J-thon? Have a meeting of people using A2J author with a specific, or 2 or 3 specific projects.
CALI Author-a-thon.
CALI Author.
Sure, hack a book.
Or an E. Lindell-a-thon. All right, the a-thon thing doesn't work too long for everything. All right, all right. So what I'm not hearing is, oh my God, this is a bad fit, or I know we're all too nice to say what we really think about hackathons. No, it's not. It's not going to be. It's not. So it's something that. Let me finish my thought, and then I'll get back to you. So what I'm saying is, yeah, we'll follow up on this idea for next year. It's worthy of exploration, and there's enough interest in the granted in the small sample of the community I've got in front of me right now. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I didn't raise my hand when you asked for full-time programmers because I still do help desk and more educational technology stuff, but I'm like 75% a programmer, and more importantly, my background and the way that I think and whatever is programming. So I actually think that you even could do, I don't know about the supply.
Well, you don't need 100% programmers to be doing that.
Half the programmer. No, but I think depending on, I know that there are things like I was looking for seating chart solutions, and I found that there are either things that aren't applicable to law school or things that cost 200 grand, and there isn't, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, an open source seating chart solution. That's not very, that's not, but seating charts aren't very sexy, but what is sexy to me is that I currently have people in faculty support who are pasting together seating charts instead of doing things that would actually help their faculty or students. So I'm wondering if there are needs like that that is a purely code thing that might be particular to law schools, and making something open source that then community members can share might.
Great idea. There might be product out there that does the job, but it costs too much or has a missing feature or something like that. And hackathons would be the opportunity to explore creating a disruptive, free version that the community could develop, for our particular needs. Well, great. Well, I wanted to wrap this up before 1 o'clock, so that it gives us enough time to walk over to 165. Thanks, Ed.
I'm sorry, John.
Go ahead.
Jonathan Haskin's actually on the line.
Maybe got 1 minute.
Say a few words.
Hi, folks. I don't want to keep anyone, and I'm hearing a lot of reverberation over here. Let me just say that I think it's actually quite a simple process if over the next couple of months we treat the CALI hackathon like a virtual iterative process. We populate a site with some ideas that make sense to use CALI as a vehicle to add solutions in education.
We're losing you, Jonathan.
Can you hear me?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of Central Jersey.
Well, we're sorry.
But the idea sounded good.
Yeah, we think we got the gist of what you were saying, and we would populate a website with ideas over the next several months as a precursor to what would happen at the actual conference. Sound reasonable?
Exactly right.
Great, great idea. Thanks both of you for participating. Appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.